What's up, folks? Got a 19, I'm about to say 2000. So accustomed to saying 2000. 1999 Ford Econoline. It's a 4.9 engine, inline six, and just popped up. He called this morning. It's a commercial vehicle, and it was idling poorly, not running well. I'm gonna let you hear it and let you know my thoughts, because what it is, you start up, it just don't want to stay running, stay idle, and you have to hold the throttle to keep it running. But when you drive it, it drives. It's just when it's stationary, it just don't want to idle. And it sounds like it got a camshaft, like a performance cam, so it's loping. And when he was talking over the phone about that, I'm like, map sensor. So if you dealt with a lot of older vehicles, if you disconnect the map sensor, it runs rich, because this is a very integral component on a lot of these engines, the older engines and even modern engines, because it needs to know the manifold absolute pressure map to determine the appropriate amount of fuel to deliver. So you may have a mass airflow sensor pre-throttle body that can also still calculate how much fuel delivery is required. But in this particular case, it's a map sensor, and it takes the vacuum from the plenum in the intake post throttle plate. And with that information, it is very integral. Just like the mass airflow sensor, if you disconnect it, that is pre throttle plate, it'll run rich, cause stalling. Same thing. It'll run rich, cause stalling, and based off how it's loping, it's running rich. Let me let you hear it. Trying to idle is going to eventually stall out. And you can smell the rich condition too. Has a good fuel pressure. As soon as you snap the throttle, I mean, it takes it. Let me show you what, again, I went to it because it was running rich, but let me show you what led me to suspect it was the map sensor. You can disconnect it. The vacuum, it idles better because we've leaned out the condition, because it has an excessive amount of fuel. It's able to make that compensation, even though it's disconnected, and under normal static, just atmospheric pressure, 14 psi, it's at its max because it's not turbocharged. So it's dumping as much fuel as it can. But being that we pull that vacuum port, it'll idle normal. Let me show you that. So it'll clear up and start to idle fine. Let me check the vacuum. So with these map sensors, you want to make sure you have adequate vacuum. Around 15 inches is normal. Between 15 and 20, that's really good. 20 is really good. But so we're around 16 right now. Plug it back in. And then it wants to stall. Let's check the powers and grounds, because we need powers and grounds and signal. Being this is the old style, it measures hertz. It doesn't go off of a dynamic voltage system, but more of a pulse system, a frequency. So, and I ain't the smartest, but I do have a device to tell me the value that is producing, which is the Power Probe 4. So let's get this disconnected. We'll check our powers, grounds, and our signal. Usually the signal wire is going to be in the middle. And let's see where we're at. We got the Power Probe 4. It has various test capabilities on here. Multiple different tests. We can measure alternating current, There's other pinpoint type tests, voltage feed tests. We can do driver tests, and mostly it measures powers and ground. But the cool thing is it can measure injector on time too, in milliseconds. So we can measure that if we need to. But mainly we just need to test for powers and grounds and hertz. So let's go to power feed test, VDC, voltage. Where is it? Where is it? There we go, right there. So we're gonna go here, and we're gonna test for powers and grounds. Test my connection first. Make sure everything works. Let's get this pulled out. I do have the key in the on position. So key on, engine off. That's what this test is going to consist of, and then we'll pull up a little bit of information and see what the standard is. But mainly we just need to tag on to the signal wire. So we need to know where our power and our ground is. So key is in the on position. Hopefully you can see this. Voltage tip. Let me see if we can zoom in on that. If not, then I'll let you know what I'm seeing. I'll try to narrate. So we got 3 wires. Typically, one's gonna be voltage, ground, and signal's typically gonna be in the middle. Key is in the on position. And right here we got 5 volts. On the other end we have ground. So here's our ground. On the far left, this is like white and look like a white and red with a red stripe. Then we have a brown and white stripe, which is going to be our 5 volts. So the signal is going to logically be in the center, and there's our signal right there in the center. How I know it's going to be a signal, typically because of the voltage is being lower. It's lower than the supply voltage because it's going through like a driver and various resistors or some stuff like that. However it decides to interpret the information, it's going through other components inside the computer. If I'm in doubt of which one is the voltage supply, I can use a test light and watch it dimly be lit. Let me show you. I have my test light here. Just gonna find the ground supply. I'm just gonna go right here in the front where my alligator clamp. So I'm looking for just a dimly lit test light. 90% of time this works, because why would you have actual usable voltage on the control side or signal side? It's just bias voltage. So there's our test light. It's dimly lit. You can see a small, tiny illuminating light bulb there. So this is going to be our voltage supply, and it does not light on the other 5 volt or 4.97 volt source to be exact. All right, that's that. Let's just pierce into our signal side. Then what we'll do, look at some data, see where the standard is supposed to be at a normal static state. We need to get a value for that. Let's get the pierce there right there. All right, cool. So there's our voltage. It's 2.54 volts. If you don't have this device, you can kind of get an idea where this voltage is. Let's go to the portion to read the frequency. There we go. Okay. Current state with everything off is 135 hertz. Let's pull some factory data. All right, this here's Identifix. You can get it for your personal vehicle. Also, it's going to have different prices. Just go there and give them a call, see what they got available for you. But being that I use it for commercial use, they do meter and measure how many times you log in and how many vehicles you check into. So just a side note. So here, since we're on Identifix, we have service information, where our component, the standards of our component, where it needs to be. So the inches of mercury here, we're, oh gosh, right here, 0. We need to be at 159 hertz. And let's see what the other one was reading. We're already off at 135 hertz. So we're already off there. So the deeper the vacuum, from here, the deeper the vacuum, the lower our value. So 0, this is the inverse of the voltage. I'm sorry, the inverse of our frequency here. So at 0, we need to be at 159. And the deeper we go into vacuum, which we were making around 16 inches of mercury, that should have been about 117. So we crank this vehicle up, we need to be between 117 and 109, somewhere around about that. Let's just say 110. Well, I don't know, 12 or so. I think that's a happy median. So let's start up and see where we're at. All right, so again, we need to be at around about 112 inches of mercury. I'm gonna take this vacuum line off, and so we can get it to idle. Then I'll plug it back in and see where it drops to. I'm gonna plug it in now. Okay, we dropped down to 90. That's what we got down to. That don't seem right, because when I checked the vacuum, we dropped down to a maximum of 16, and 16 should have been around 112, not 90. Let me start it up. Call me crazy, but there's no reason for it to go that deep. Let me try and see if I can keep it stable. Just dropping to 90. I feel justified in replacing this simply because the static state is off. And when we plug the vacuum source in, we know where we need to be is significantly down from that. So I think it's worth just going to the parts store, getting one and shooting a part at it. I think we might get lucky on this one. So just to look at the graph again, 90 is about, that's crazy vacuum right there too. The average car makes here at 15 to 20, and this is making somewhere between 25 inches of mercury. This is like unreal here. So like I said, most cars we're going to be around 15 to 20, so that the most we should be dropping down to 109, and we're not. We're going way below that. Let's go get a map sensor. Just got back from the parts store. Y'all know I frequently patronize O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Here's the part number, AS1. Standard motor product. This is what it looks like. It's actually got standard stamped on it. It looks like a map sensor. Sits right there. Now, I guess what makes me a little nervous is, you don't have a check engine light code. Maybe I just got groomed and conditioned into seeing check engine light codes and circuit faults or whatever circuit mismatch, imbalance, out of spec, whatever, and we don't have that now. Okay, we can see that there's some unsatisfied conditions. This is it. Besides the data, I mean, I guess it's bittersweet that this is a rudimentary system, but I don't know. I'm nervous now. Let's get this off of there. Get the comparative information when we plug it in. I mean, I'm doubting myself. Have what we had. Oh, the key's not in on position. Ha! Alright, what we at? What we fixed? This is not the right one. Now I have to be left in suspense again. Where's the voltage is different. Oh yeah, that's normal. I feel good now. So, all right, let's let's put the vacuum line in there and just start it up, because we're well within spec. Let's see if it should run like normal now. Amazing. And look, it's well within spec now. Wow. Awesome. So I was all nervous for no reason. At least this is a shift in the day's feeling. Let me get these 2 bolts off. It looks like it's a Phillips or either some very small head here. Let's get this off and replace, and the new one popped in. Yeah, I got all worked up for nothing. But you know, at least you could see what the car was unsatisfied with the new vehicles. I mean, I'm overthinking it. Here's the old one, Ford OEM. I mean, but who rightfully wouldn't get nervous after just throwing the part on there that they know they need? I mean, it'd be like this. I've been so confident in certain replaces and threw the part on there, been just as wrong as I could ever be. That's that. That's that. I do want to put a little bit of dielectric grease on this nipple. So we wouldn't have any issues coming off that slit on extremely easy. Should we look at the data again? Got a phone call come in. All right, let's start up and see where we're at now. All right, we're still at our value, and it runs extremely smooth too. Before it was trying to stall. Now it runs amazing. Just snap the throttle. Well, this repair worked out pretty well. Now, when I get these vehicles and they have specific symptoms, it could have been an oxygen sensor on this particular car. It could have been high pressure. It could have been fuel injectors. But there was the big key thing that was pointing to this MAP sensor. Just like a common cold was going to have a blended symptom with some sort of underlying disease. This had similar symptoms with other potential causes, such as fuel injectors, high fuel pressure, that is. I mean, coolant temp sensor, but this specific component, just from experience, will cause idle issues, but it will clear up when you give it gas due to the compensation and the influence of the map with the computer. I mean, the most it's going to produce is when you disconnect it, when you full throttle and it can accept that. Same thing. It was running a little rich, or probably in this case, because it was dropped so low, it was running lean. But call me crazy. Felt like a rich condition to me. But by the logic of the values from what we were looking at, it was running lean. But it seemed like it was running rich. But it could have been because of how slow this tester is. Probably it could have been jumping up. That's when it was stalling. So when it jumped up to atmospheric pressure, then it would stall. But by the logic, when I disconnect the when I disconnect the vacuum line, it compensated and allowed it to run because it idled the vehicle up. So I believe it was trying to make that trajectory up to atmospheric pressure and run rich, demanding more fuel. But because I didn't keep this blocked off and the vehicle was supposed to idle as it should, and it wouldn't have been able to make the compensation install, it was able to do that and continue to run. So I do believe, even though we saw lean values when it started to jump up, if you notice, it was going to make an attempt to run rich. That's why it stalled. So, but like I say, it could have been oxygen sensors, but they have very specific symptoms. This case, loping while idle, it accepted the throttle and cleared up, and it ran better when you disconnected it. That's the good thing about the old cars. They were so old and rudimentary that, you know, it had the abilities of working around more so than these new vehicles and not going into a limp home mode. So it's fixed. It's running fine. I'm going to call the guy and let him know. He can come pay and pick it up. I was right the first time under my speculation because of experience. So, but hey, if anything happened, I'll definitely update. Hit that link, subscribe channel, stay informed, how to reach for some work. I'll see you on the next one.